Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this video, we're going to check out a chorus plugin from BlueCat. So firstly, if you're new to my channel, new to my videos, if you like what you see, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos as they come out. So chorus from BlueCat, it's a modulation effect, adds a chorusing effect. So if you've never heard a chorusing effect before, try it out. See what you think of it, see what sounds you get out of it. So it's a nice, simple sort of plugin that you can add to your mixes to place on guitar tracks or pianos, or even vocals, whatever you like, just to add a little bit of modulation. You can go wild with that modulation and chorus effect, or you can go quite subtle just to add a little bit of movement to your tracks and everything else. Now, this plugin itself comes free in a free bundle pack from BlueCat that you can get from their website, and definitely worth trying, definitely worth having in your toolkit when you need to pull it out. It's not something that I'll use all the time, being a chorus effect. It's not, a staple that I'll use in plugins, but definitely as a guitarist, I like using chorus effects and that. And if I didn't apply it during the actual recording process in my guitar effects itself, then it's definitely useful to have this there so that you can add it afterwards if you decide that it needs it in the mix. Now, this is one of my older videos, again, that was on my website, didn't quite make it to YouTube, but definitely worth running through as it is a good plugin and it is free. So why not check it out and try it? Hopefully the video is okay, the quality is okay, and I'm not too boring in it, but let's go and check it out and I'll show you all about the plugin. So I've got it loaded here on an acoustic guitar track, and you can see here, this is a mono version. There's also a stereo version. Okay, so if we compare the mono version to the stereo version, the difference is the spread here. So we can basically control on a stereo track how wide we want this compressor to be just by this control here. So obviously 100% would be fully stereo, and then anywhere in between down to 0, which would be mono, would be less wide. So that's the big difference there. At the moment we're going to concentrate on just the mono version, but just simply, obviously, we just have that extra little bit of control. Okay, so basically we have an on-off switch here, well, bypass switch. We've got some menus here, so we can change some settings, create some presets, all that sort of stuff within the plugin itself. Under redo, we have their presets that they've got already included. We've got a help button here that opens a manual, and about. We can actually change the opacity of the plugin. So if you like to keep it open, but you want to see through it, we can do that. We have our settings control. So this basically shows the settings, which is interesting in the features there. So that basically allows us to do some fancy stuff with MIDI controls, which I'm not going to go into because you need a controller for that sort of stuff, and that's not really the point of this. And as I said, bypass. We've got a gain control, so this is basically our input gain. So 0 obviously is flat. We can go negative or positive if we would like to boost our signal. And if we jump over to this side here, we have our dry wet control. So our dry obviously is how much of our original signal is passed through. So these are independent. So sometimes when you have a plugin, you will have a mix control, and that mix control basically goes fully wet on one side, fully dry on the other, and in between. So you're determining what the mix is. This one here, the independent, so we can have 100% dry and 100% wet, as opposed to having a mix of to, it'd be similar to, I guess, doing 50% wet, 50% dry, but I guess it's a slightly different way of doing it. So we've got our wet control. Obviously, this is the wet signal. So this is the chorus effect, how much of the chorus effect we want to apply to the dry signal. We have a delay control, so we can affect what speed delay the chorus is going to have. So we can go very fast, up to 30 milliseconds. So it's a very narrow sort of range, nothing massive there, but we'll see what effect that has when we play with it. We've got our depth control here. So this determines the amount of delay variation around the average delay. That's what the words in the manual means, or says, whatever that means. So we're just going to play with that and see what it does. We have our rate, which is the rate of the LFO, so the speed of the chorus, of the chorus shape and how it fluctuates. So we can go down to nothing all the way up to 20 hertz. So again, not a huge range. It's a very small moves, but they might have a massive effect. As I said, in the stereo version, we have the spread control, and then we have a shape. So we have two types of shapes here. We have a sine wave and we have a triangle. So we can flick between the two to change the style of chorus sound we are getting. So let's start with it off, and I'm just going to load the default back in. And we'll start with a bypass, and we will see what we do when we bring it in. So instantly you can hear there's a big difference. So if we take the wet down, we get nothing. So if we take the dry down, we just get the fully wet control. Which sounds pretty terrible. But that's your standard sort of chorusy sound there, with the dry and wet mixed together. So gain control. Nothing special there. So as I said, very small changes in value, but massive changes in sound. So you're getting some really weird sounds there. So going by what we've experienced so far, these values are fairly high, and you'd probably want to be making this a little bit more subtle. And we'll do that in a minute. We'll go through some of the presets and just have a compare there. So obviously the depth there was, we were sort of seeing what impact that was having. The rate was the most obvious one, so it's just how fast that chorusing effect was applied. And the delay, I'm guessing that it's the delay that's applied to the wet signal compared to the dry. So that's what's sort of putting it off and giving that sort of phasey sort of quality to the chorus as well. So if we leave it here, and I'll switch over to the triangle shape, and we'll see what the difference is. Doesn't seem to be a massive difference. I guess if you try to imagine it, it probably does sound a little bit pointier than the sine wave, but it's not a drastic change to me anyway. All right, so that's the basic controls. So there's not a great deal to this plugin. It's a standard chorus plugin, so it's a pretty quick sort of review here, but let's just run through a few of the presets and see what they're doing. So a clean chorus 2. So that's sort of more the style that you're going to expect that you get out of a guitar pedal, that sort of thing. It's a lot more subtler. And you can tell straight away why, and it's simple fact the depth is down to 10%. So, you know, you could see when I played with the depth. As soon as you go up high, it starts to sound wacky. But just blending in a tiny little bit of this can add a nice chorus effect. So I'm not sure the difference between all of these clean choruses. This one here, we're changing the rate, slower, greater depth, and a longer delay. Okay, this one they've reduced the wet control down 80%, just to make it a little bit more subtler than the other version. So now we're going for a little bit extreme here. Very long delay, very low depth, fast rate, no dry signal at all, 56% wet. So here we got a flange effect. Obviously there's some really weird presets here. So this one here, we've got a very short delay, very big depth, so 100% depth, fairly fast, and 72% dry and 69% wet. So just a blend of the two together. And as the name describes, we're sort of getting a flangey effect. Okay, that's probably not the most useful preset there, but I guess it depends on what weird sounds you're going for. But you could see the sort of effect you're going here. As I said, you're probably most likely going to be looking for some sort of subtle effect. It's going to depend on the instrumentation, but this can obviously get very out of control, so subtle is the best way to do things. So just a tiny bit of chorus can just make things different. So that's our dry. Very subtle there, but it just adds a little bit. You could even get these to a level where you almost don't even believe they're there. unless you bypass and unbypass the plugin, and then it becomes obvious, but you get used to hearing it. So that is probably the most likely way I would use it, would be some sort of setting like this, where it's very subtle. It's not over the top. It's just there just to add a little bit of that sort of chorusy texture to it, but at a very, very low level, so it's not standing out, but, you know, just making the part a little bit more interesting than what it usually is. So there you go. It's very simple sort of plug in there. We could just quickly chuck it on a stereo track. Let me just find the stereo. So I'll leave it as the mono guitar, but we'll put it on the output, which is a stereo output. So let's get that similar sort of setting there. Let's just fire up that clean chorus there. Just drop it down a little bit less wet. Okay, let's bypass. So we got the spread at full. So keep in mind, this is a mono guitar track. So placing this on a stereo bus, we've instantly converted our mono guitar to a stereo guitar. Bring that spread in. So bring the spread in, we're back to a mono chorus. A little bit of width, a bit more, and full. So this is probably a handy trick there if you want to get some stereo width out of a mono track as well. You can do this technique by placing it on a bus or something like that. Just be careful with your phasing with this plugin. I'm not sure what the results will be, but make sure that if you do anything like this and you're using this to convert something to stereo, that you check your mix in mono to make sure that these instruments do not disappear or sound horrible when they are played in a mono device. So make sure you check that out. But as long as it doesn't do that, it can be a very handy tool for adding a little bit of stereo width to a mono track. Or obviously, if it's a stereo track, then it will just leave it stereo and just enhance it a little bit more with a little bit of chorus. So there you go. There is the chorus plugin from Blue Cat. As I stated, comes free in their free bundle that you can download right now from the Blue Cat website. So go and check it out, try it. Let me know what you think of it. If you have already used it and you like it or don't like it, tell me why you like it, why you don't like it. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Do you use it on particular instruments or any interesting uses that you have for this plugin? If you liked the video, then click the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. Hopefully it's been helpful. I thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.